Dong Refrigeration at Foco Lane. Terms and conditions apply.
For the first time ever, the OECS Cycling Championship will be held in Dominica. Come Sunday, July 2nd, the cyclists from Anguilla, Antigua, Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, British Virgin Islands, and the host country, Dominica, will ride their way into the record books, calling all Dominicans along the cycling route to come out and witness for yourself. Share, support, and encourage Team Dominica, including Bram Sanderson, Daddy Chess, Mills, Garon, and the boys, as they bend Kokosh, punch around the corner, waiting their option to navigate and negotiate the road as they compete with Bobby and Speed on Sunday, July 2nd. Starting from the Porterville Savannah all the way to the entrance of the Caprettes National Park and back to Porterville Savannah. It's a 60-mile circuit race and it's Laughly Show, a race of fitness and endurance. Come out and support the first ever OECS organized cycling championships in Dominica. Sponsored by the Dominica Olympic Committee, Fine Foods Inc., Sprinkle Trading, S-Smart, Anchorage Hotel, Burton and Company, Ronald Charles Chambers, Marpin Flow, DBS, Kyrie Q, and Vibes FM, Government of Dominica, Official Championship Water, Lupia Spring Water.
King David sit up on the heavenly throne. Hallelujah. Oh Jesus. See people business, I'll leave it alone. Hallelujah.
Tell you how great God has been to me. If God has been great to you, I want you all just enjoy this song. Climbed to the highest mountain, looked all around, couldn't find nobody. Went down into the deepest valley, looked all around and never find nobody. Across the deep blue sea, couldn't find no one to compare to your grace, your love, your mercy. Nobody great.
made you breakfast, by the way.
Okay, I'm in a bit of a rush, but
Give me a kiss.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of Real Estate Talk. I'm your host, Marian Johnfin, the real estate lady, the best source for all your real estate needs. This morning we are continuing with the legal aspect of estate. And I have with me, gracing again his presence, Mr. Jones. Mr. Darius Jones is going to help us understand a little bit more of estate, where there's a will and when there's no will. And we're going to focus a little bit on where there is no will. It's called intestate. And so when we come back, we will continue our conversation. And you may call in and ask a question or two to Mr. Darius Jones. So stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Real Estate Talk with host Marian Johnfin, the real estate lady, the best source for all your real estate needs. Real Estate Talk is aired on the big station Q95 FM every Tuesday morning from 10:15 a.m. to 10:45 a.m. Real Estate Talk is talking primarily on all things real estate, commercial and residential. We talk about the real estate market. We talk about the market conditions for buying and selling. We talk about choosing a professional real estate agent. We talk about financing your purchase and finding the right property. We engage the experts with specific roles in the process of buying and selling real estate. Real Estate Talk every Tuesday on Q95 FM from 10:15 a.m. with host Marian Johnfin.
And welcome back. We are in studio. I'm happy to have with me in studio this morning Mr. Jones. He's attorney at law and he specializes, I think, in probate and in wills and in interstate activities. So Mr. Jones, again, welcome to Real Estate Talk.
Well, thank you very much. Good to be here.
Okay, it's really a pleasure, sir. For the layman on the street, tell us, what is an estate?
Well, the estate of an individual who have passed involves, in layman parlance, things that he owns.
Everything.
So it could be land, it could be money, it could be shares, many different things.
Business transaction that is...
Certainly. Even take, for instance, people may have owed him money.
Okay.
The debt owed to him can form part of his estate. So it's really all things of value. And value we have a different meaning to different people. We have an old rocking chair, 100 years old, and that may be of value. Another person might see it as junk.
Okay. You know? Okay, last time you were here, we went into a little bit into the will, the need for a will. Tell us, no, there is no will. Many persons in Dominica died without a will. Tell us what is the intestate? I mean, I think I've just said that, but just the legal, terminology. How does the state what happens when there is no will? Let me put it this way: what happens when there is no will?
Yeah, the effect of it is where there is a will, let's say a valid and effectual will.
A valid and effectual will.
What happens after the person dies? What happens to his estate is dictated by what is in that will.
Valid and effective will.
That is correct. If, take for instance, there is no will, then the rules of intestacy comes into play. So it's really about the law deciding what happens than what the testator is the person who made the will. So it's instead of the person who owned those property deciding what happens, it would be decided according to law.
Okay.
Now, you remember when we spoke of wills, we indicated the number of problems that could arise if you have difficulty in interpreting the will, etc., etc., etc. When it comes to intestacy, the situation is slightly more complex and complicated.
Why is that so?
If, take for instance, John Brown has made a will and he decides he's going to share his estate or what he has he provides for his wife and for his 4 or 5 children. When he dies, that is what happens. If he did not make a will and he has a wife and 4 children with her and 6 outside, so you're talking about 11 people.
Right.
And the manner in which it's shared, the law lays down certain criteria. What happens? The wife has a certain interest, a life interest. She has a share in certain aspects of it. And thereafter, the children comes in.
Okay, so that's called descent and distribution. That will be looked at on the descent.
Yeah. But it's not always that straightforward.
It's not always.
No.
Why is that not always so?
He may have 4 children that he had with his wife or the person he lived with.
Okay.
But he may have had another 6 elsewhere, in Dominica or elsewhere. And under the rules of intestacy, these children are just as important as those who were raised with him.
So there's no more legitimate and illegitimate children in the law or under the rules of intestacy.
Well, generally in our law, which now you find that there isn't this level of discrimination as between legitimate and illegitimate children. You just talk of an issue, a child, and so it's not a question of whether you're born in wedlock or out
of wedlock.
Although during your lifetime, you can decide to share it among who you wish by making a will. But if you don't make a will, people could come
from everywhere and anyone say, that's my father, that's my mother.
Yes, and sometimes he may not have this identified or disclosed certain things to the other children. You say, well, I didn't know my father had children in Jamaica. You say, yeah, look, my birth certificate. That's it, yeah?
Or if let's say that person, that father did not acknowledge the child, can a DNA or science dictate that?
You can, but then we have to be realistic. If, take for instance, you have an estate that run into the millions, people will go to the lengths to establish this is my father.
As I said, the last time you were here, I did say an example. I knew of a story on St. Martin where that happened. Of course, the man he was worth millions, and it went to the Hague, and the court ordered that the father body be exhumed, but the children says, okay, we will give our DNA and it was proven that biologically through DNA that
was his father.
And so now he had to be included in the will, even though the father had a will.
Okay. Well, I mean, as I say, remember the last occasion, dealing with wills, we only skirted over the issue.
Right.
But even there are situations, even the person makes a will, and he hasn't catered for certain classes of individual who he should cater for. So take, for instance, if he had disposed of all his property, and he hasn't recognized his wife, you know, there is this Inheritance from the Provisions Act. We have a comparative. You could say, what that's your wife, and you've not mentioned her. Or if you had, take for instance, children, minor children at the time of your death, the person responsible for these children can actually make a claim under those provisions.
So if someone is living with a man, woman living together for years, not married, but the person who died did not acknowledge, or you know, that person, do they have a right to?
Well, I mean, nowadays the courts are much more flexible. Although in other parts of the world, they recognize common law relationship. And I mean, you just have to look at it on a realistic aspect. You living with a person for the last 20 years, you all have worked together, and just because you didn't go to church or to the registry to get a ring, you're saying, I am worth nothing. You know? And there are people who actually petition the court. They go to the court and say, well, even if you're not married, you're still entitled, you still have an interest. What is there is as a result of our collective labor. You can't just take all and give it away.
All right, and let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back. And when I come back, you are free to call this number to ask Mr. Jones any questions that you may have. Number is 449-3095-9697. Feel free to call and ask any question that you may feel that you would like to ask Mr. Jones. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
The National Cooperative Credit Union Limited is offering cash secured loans at a very special 5.99% interest rate. Members can use savings and deposits to quickly obtain loans for any purpose. Just walk into any of NCCU's 6 branches today and apply. Set your own repayment terms and get your same day loan. Promotion extended to November 30, 2017. Terms and conditions apply.
E.H. Jones & Company Limited, the right place for quality products and dependable customer services when building, renovating, and remodeling your home. Visit E.H. Jones for building supplies, home decoration and garden supplies, plumbing, equipment, tools, and general hardware supplies. E.H. Jones & Company Limited is the right place, the right choice. We offer dependable customer services. Located on Goodwill Road, opens Monday to Fridays, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Saturdays, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Telephone 448-2390. E.H. Jones & Company Limited, the right place for quality products and dependable customer services. Member of True Value Company, agent for Makita Professional Power Tools and Berger Paint.
And I'm here with Mr. Jones. He's attorney at law, and he specializes in probate, in wills, in intestate law, I would say. And of course, as I said, you are free to call and ask Mr. Jones a question, 449-3095-9697. Mr. Jones, once there is an intestate, right, help us understand the order of distribution or priority in the distribution of someone's estate.
Right. I mean, best way to look at it is the order of priority in relation to the persons.
Let's take a call, Mr. Jones. Someone is there to ask a call. Good morning, caller. Okay, they're gone. Continue, sir.
Yeah, the order of priority in which a person can, let's say, apply for letters of administration. Okay. Section 4 of the Intestate Succession Act actually provides for that. So if the person is married, still married at the time of his or her death, then the spouse is it would be like the priority individual. If there is no spouse, then you look to see whether there are children.
Okay.
If he had any children.
So does the spouse, there's a spouse and there are children. Do they get equal portion, or is there a?
No, there is a formula. There's a
let's take a call and we'll talk about the formula. Good morning and welcome to Real Estate Talk. I'm here to get in a feedback, please. Can you lower your radio, please? Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to Real Estate Talk.
Good morning.
Yes, sir.
Question here.
Mm-hmm.
If someone has a loan at the bank, all right, and somebody has co-signed with that person, with that individual. Someone has co-signed with that individual,
Mm-hmm.
and the person dies. Not the co-signer, but the person dies.
Mm-hmm.
Can anyone else inquire about the loan, get information at the bank on the loan, other than the co-signer, or can any relative or anyone go in to ask to get information on can the bank, or should the bank
Mm-hmm.
give information to anyone else apart from the co-signer?
Mr. Jones, you care to?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, caller.
Mm-hmm.
The person who takes the loan is like the principal borrower.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the co-signer. If the principal principal borrower dies, the bank ought to look to who is his administrator or executor.
But don't, Mr. Jones, when banks give you loan, isn't there an insurance?
That's what I was coming to.
Okay.
But even before they proceed to do all of that, they look to see who is administering the estate of the borrower, because the loan still needs to be paid. And as you rightly mentioned, a number of loans, there are insurance provisions.
I think most banks do give insurance to secure their
Yes, and it all depends on how much money it is.
Mm-hmm.
But the co-signer is also a signatory on the loan agreement,
Mm-hmm.
so that if the borrower dies, then it is in the interest of the co-signer to
Ensure.
find out what is the status of that loan, because
He is also responsible.
he is a co-signer, and that is the whole effect of it.
Mm-hmm.
But the bank would always want to know, is the estate of the principal borrower been administered, and then they can work around that.
Okay.
You may have issues as to, take for instance, the loan might be paid off as a
So the
result of
insurance.
insurance, and the co-signer wants to know if he is actually relieved
From that
from that.
responsibility.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So he can go to the bank and ask a question, the co-signer.
Yes, certainly, because he is an interested
Okay.
party and he is a signatory.
Okay. My question is, if a parent or someone give to a child or spouse, a family member, part of his estate before he dies, but dies in interstate, what happens? Is that person still qualified for equal amount in the distribution, or is that portion that he was given included in his portion that he's supposed to have received?
Well, there is a common saying, Powell and Bush say blag. If, take for instance, a parent tells a child, I will give you that piece of land, but does nothing. There is no
Document.
evidence of it. It is very different than if the parent allows that person, let's say, to build a house on a certain portion of land. Then even if the person didn't, and which is not a very wise thing to do, because the number of issues that can arise.
We have a call. Mr. Jones, let's take a call. Good morning and welcome to Real Estate Talk.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Ms. Johnson and Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones, you didn't quite address the question by the caller, because I believe what the caller was asking, if anybody other than the co-signer is interested, whether they can obtain information from the bank.
Thank you.
Right. If I go directly to that, what I indicated is that in relation to the principal borrower, if he dies, then the bank usually looks at his administrator. And when you say other persons who might be interested, is like, let's say, like the children, grandchildren, the wife,
the family member
of the deceased principal borrower. The bank would still want to know who is administering that the estate of that particular individual.
Okay.
Because the bank itself is not going to take on the role of administrator, and they wouldn't just hand
information.
Information, money, or they want to. It is sometimes very.
They need
very
some
harsh.
legal document from
Yes.
someone saying that I am the administrator.
Something, yes.
Something to
yes.
that effect.
Yeah. However, take for instance, where you have situations like if the person dies and they have a wife or minor children, yes, and they would be very interested. Or if somebody had borrowed, if let's say
Use the property as collateral.
Well, the property would have been caveated if the bank, you know. So, but if he had some other business, you want to know, let's say, what is the extent of his borrowing, so you would know if you.
Continue. We have a call, but let's continue.
If you have enough equity in that property to satisfy the others. But as more directly in relation to what the caller asked, if take for instance somebody has children, they have the wife, they definitely can find out because they have an interest in the assets of the deceased borrower.
Okay. We have a call. Good morning, call, and welcome to Real Estate Talk. Thank you. Hello. I guess we've lost that one. Mr. Jones, we were talking about gifts before death and then intestate.
And as we mentioned, you have gift with some sort of evidence of the gift. It doesn't necessarily, not always in writing, because you have situations, and this is common in Dominica, where one person has a portion of land, you have children, and you allow them to build on the land.
Let's take that call. Good morning and welcome to.
Good morning.
Yes, sir.
There's a saying that in Dominica that when one makes a will, if he doesn't want to leave something for a particular child, you have to mention the child's name and say, "I leave a cup of water for him at least." What is the reason for that?
Well, I like those sort of questions, because these are things that come up very
frequently.
Yes, there are people who say, "My father maybe he didn't have his head
right mind,
okay, because I used to be there with him. I was talking to him. I would call him on the phone. Yes, and right now, I see he made a will and he didn't mention me." And I have a feeling, my father may not have been of sound mind. Now, one of the ways of, is a novel way of going around it, is that, I could remember a fella in Salisbury, he left his son a pickaxe handle. The same pickaxe handle that he had used to hit the father.
Oh, shoot.
I could remember in dealing with Martin Peter Soufriere, where a lady left a big black pot for her son, who was in America. And he came and he actually challenged the will. And he said that, his mother couldn't have, been in her right mind to leave him just
a pot.
Yes. But that gentleman's mother had gone to firm of solicitors in Roseau, a reputable. And the witnesses came and said that the lady explained why she was leaving him the black pot, because she didn't want him to get anything other than the black pot, because this black pot belonged to his father.
Oh, shoot. But that's a cruel joke.
It might be cruel, but at least, when you mention the person, even if it's $1,
right,
there is evidence that he didn't forget you.
It's solid. It gives more weight to the will.
You were not forgotten.
Okay. Can the state, is it possible for the state to inherit a citizen's estate?
Yes, and it doesn't happen very often in our society, but yes, that can. Take, for instance, you have people who die and they have no known relatives. They had no children, they were not married, their brothers and sisters deceased, they had no known.
So it's only you on this earth?
Yes, and I call that bona vicanta.
Oui, Papa. That sounds Latin.
Yes, yes. But it goes to the state. The state is the only person who can claim it. Because there are no...
Is there a special fund or special department that receives that on behalf of the people?
Well, once it belongs to the state will organize how they deal with it.
Can a child... Okay, let's take a quick call. Good morning and
Yes,
welcome.
Is there a time limit after a will is made, it can be contested? I think it's called statute of limitation. Is there a time limit afterwards? Can you contest a will after 50 years or 20 years or 40 years? Thank you.
Okay. Well, the longer you take before you raise an issue, the more difficult or even almost impossible to get the results you would like. Because take, for instance, if the will is 30 years, 40 years old, chances are it would have been administered. By which time land would have been sold, the property would have changed hands.
Persons have died.
And then a new person would have been on the property. That person knew nothing about the will. They bought it from the administrator or from somebody else or from one of the people who, let's say, had an interest. And in law, they call what they refer to as a bona fide purchaser of the legal estate for value. Without notice, I mean, you didn't know, you just look at the document, everything looking all right. You went for a real estate agent, you went to a lawyer, everything was... But if it is found out, let's say 40 years later...
Right, that the administrator...
That something went, well, you may have other rights against, let's say, like the administrator or the beneficiary.
Because maybe the administrator may not have done right.
Right.
Because he has no right to sell a property outright without certain condition.
Well, and referring specifically back to the last question that we had, if take, for instance, it is an executor or administrator who misappropriated the funds, in other words, money, something that was supposed to go to John, instead of giving it to John, he's taken it and he sold it.
Right.
He gets the money and he builds his house with the money. And he forgets those who were supposed to.
The rightful heirs.
And you have people, you can come back after the administrator, after the executor. And there's this process called tracing. If you can show that he took the money from the estate and he built his own house, then you can apply to claim an interest in that house.
Okay.
Because it was brought with funds from the estate.
Misappropriated funds. Okay. I just want to quickly, I think we're running out of time, just to quickly, can a child, a spouse, inherit from an estate, whether it's a will or it's in interstate, that because of causing the death of the owner? Or?
Well, I mean, there's a long-standing principle in law. You cannot you cannot benefit. Like take, for instance, a person who murdered someone. The murderer really just can't benefit from that estate. I mean,
even if it's a child or a spouse?
Anybody who, let's say, murdered the estate owner would find it very difficult to come and lay a claim to that estate.
Okay. And I think we anything, just kind of quickly, can you quickly advise us, because many of us in Dominica, we don't want to do a will, or we don't see the need for a will. Can you please advise us on that matter and under the condition under which you should do a will? The last time you said you should not have none of the beneficiaries in the presence of when you're doing the will.
Yeah. When a person intends to draft a will, to get a will put together, you may tell the people around you that you intend to do A, B, and C, and tell them that you would like to have a will done. But at the point of execution, when it is happening, the persons who have interest in that will, the worst will that you can have is where a beneficiary is one of the witnesses. That is just a no-no.
Okay.
Even where they are just merely present, a lot of offense can be taken to that, just being present. So it needs to be done very openly.
Right.
Seemingly without any pressure.
Right.
And independent witnesses usually safer.
Right. Someone who has no interest in that estate.
No interest in that estate. All he's here to say is that I saw this man sign this on that day. I was there. I saw him. He asked me. I was there. I saw him sign, and I signed after him.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you see his son come and he see his son's signature there, somebody's going to take offense to that.
Okay.
And the law doesn't really like that.
Like that.
No.
Okay. So, would you advise most person to do a will, or just leave it to the state?
Well, I say each person has their way of handling their estate, but I personally believe that a will provides more certainty.
An effective and valid will.
Yes, you do it the right way.
The right way.
And
no vikey-vai.
No.
Okay. So, Mr. Jones, I really want to thank you. It's really been a pleasure. I hope, as you say, law is not always black and white or straight across the board. So it's always a work in progress, and circumstances always dictate how it is finalized. And really, I want to say thank you so much. And I know persons will be looking out for you and to get their will or get advice. You don't want to give your number or say where your office is, but I know.
Well, I mean, as I say, I like to just public information. Public information. Then you do it not for profit.
Okay.
Not for profit. But even when you don't do that, a lot of people tell me that they heard it. A lot of people, it still, works.
It still works.
Yes.
Okay. So I guess from now on we are moving in a direction where we want information, we want to do things right, so that we all can benefit and we can build this real estate. Dominic Nu, Mayor.
And if I had just a few minutes, one of the things that one of the days that we need to really talk about is the type of different ways people own property. Different ways.
Okay, we will have to come back.
Yeah.
We will have to come back on that, Mr. Jones, because I think the law, there's so many aspects of the law that has to be discussed. And so I'm glad that you're making yourself available to Real Estate Talk to give the information. So thank you, and I wish you all the best in your endeavors, sir.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here.
And this has been another edition of Real Estate Talk. This is Marian Johnfin, the real estate lady, the best source for all your real estate needs. Should you need my service, please contact me on 225-2121. Until next time, God bless.